Hello, family. Welcome back to JFK Today, your direct link to all things politics, comedy, and culture. I'm your host, Janaya Future Khan, champ yapper and frequent nuisance in the activist and comedy worlds. Let's get dialed in. Just before we jump, JFK Today is a self-funded, self-produced show. We're at Patreon at Janaya FK. I'm so grateful for all the support and for you just taking the time to listen. Okay, time to get into it. We have got a packed episode. It's a banger. It's a banger of an episode. We're talking Trudeau and what the F is going on in Canada. IG censorship of the LGBT community. I thought it was just me. No, it's gross. We're going to get into it. And Musk has been a pestilence everywhere in America, but it's expanding. He has been going to war with every politician in the UK, and we are going to unpack what is going on and why it's happening. But before we get into it, some quick hits. This one I like. Zendaya and Tom Holland are engaged. Okay, first of all, this is everybody's favorite couple for sure. But let's just be clear. This is a huge moment for biracials and bisexuals alike. Congratulations to you all. This might be your year. This might be your year. Ugh, this one's annoying. Okay. I am obligated to report on these things. McDonald's is deciding they're going to roll back their DEI program, right? They're like, it seems, no, we don't want to push for greater diversity anymore. We're cool on that. Let's just be really clear, right? So they're saying that 4 years after launching a push for more diversity in its ranks, it's ending some of these practices. And why? They're citing the Supreme Court's decision that outlawed affirmative action in college admissions. So we've covered this already, right? That part. But let's just be really clear. The ruling is not really the why. They don't want to do it. And they're terrified of conservative backlash. We've just seen this happen across the board, like Walmart, right? Talked about that on the show already. John Deere, Harley Davidson. These are just some of the corporations that have rolled back their DEI initiatives. They're going to go with, what we push for as people. But the second that the foot is not on the gas, they don't care. I learned a new word today. Because, we're all being inundated with how we should be exercising and how we can lose weight and what we can do differently in 2025. But I learned a very fun word today, and it's called, in terms of like exercise, and it's called fartlek, right? So this is a Swedish word that translates like speed play. So basically it's like, if you're walking, like when I walk Sula, sometimes there's a tree off in the distance and I'm like, I'm going to increase my pace until we hit that tree. It's like that. And when I saw this with McDonald's, the first thing that I thought was, I'm going to go into every one of your establishments and fartlek all over your face. But that's not how the word should be used. But it's how I felt. All right. So AI, artificial intelligence. Yesterday, I had the immense pleasure of describing how Meta had to kill off their AI influencers for being weird because they're weird. But I'm also like, you created black people in AI and then you killed them. So anyway, let me get into the news part of this. Okay. So do you know how some of us, right? I've got these Apple news alerts that come on my iPhone, right? Some of you may have them. So for the latest iPhone, one of these features is it's a new AI feature, and it generates news alerts, right? For you. And so this has been happening for some people. But the problem, it generated inaccurate news alerts. I just like the inaccuracies range from like mildly ridiculous to like mad egregious. Okay. So on Friday, Apple's AI inaccurately summarized BBC's, notifications, app notifications. It claimed that this guy, Luke Littler, had won the like dart championship hours before it began. So it hadn't even started. And they were like, this guy won. And that Spanish tennis star, Rafael Nadal, came out as gay. I Love that part. But not true. Not true. They just decided, and for once I was on AI side. I was like, he's a very, very fine man. I'm sure the boys would have been very happy. But this is where shit gets really ugly. And of course, we know that this whole thing is a serious problem. But get this, right? So last month, the BBC complained that, they complained after an AI generated summary of its headline falsely told some readers that Luigi Mangione, Mangione, right? Our guy. It said that after he was accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, that Luigi shot himself. Like this is unbelievable. I didn't even know that this happened, right? So you'd think, okay, this is really bad, right? Apple should be looking at this AI news feature and think, we have got to pull it, right? Like pull the technology after this unbelievably flawed performance. But no, oh no, they're just going to do an update. They're just going to update it. As if they even do that well. Do I need to yell again about the updated photo feature? I take screenshots of everything because there's so much information and so much news that I have to speak to, and I can't find them. And how am I supposed to express myself as a tiny hamster wearing glasses at a computer desk if I can't find the image? This is the thing that's infuriating to me, right? It was such a reminder of this. AI could be good. AI could be a phenomenal thing for humanity, for the planet, for the environment, for animals. But it's used for this capitalist bullshit, and it's not even made well, right? That's what's so unbelievably frustrating about it. There's nothing inherently wrong or evil with AI. We talk about it like it's this awful thing because we understand how capitalism works, right? And I mentioned this in depth several episodes back. I can't remember which. Hopefully, I'll find it in the notes, even though it's very, very late and I have a very small window of time to post this. So my East Coast homies can get this on time the way that they deserve. But we talked about it, right? Remember that AI can do things like mitigate climate harm, right? That's like take deforestation right now. It can, in Brazil, it can like predict with something like 75 to 80 something percent accuracy where deforestation is going to happen in Brazil's rainforest, because poachers and big agriculture, like big ag, they're very, very serious. They just want to destroy the rainforest so that they can grow monocrops just to maximize profits. Now, a rainforest is a very difficult thing to protect for obvious reasons. It's so expansive, and resources are going to be limited. So what AI helps with, right, is it makes predictions based on patterns of movement, forest density, et cetera. And those predictions help to anticipate and bolster protections in key areas. This helps to thwart climate catastrophe, right? AI can help with things like medicine. And this is imperative right now. Think about antibiotics, right? Antibiotics are one of those things that modern day miracles of medicine. One of those things we sort of take for granted because we've had them for so long, but they're incredible. And they're also incredibly difficult to create. So, they've been so impactful that there's been no major medical advancements necessary for new kinds of antibiotics, right? For these transmittable viruses and disease strains. But remember back in the day, right? Back when Flintstone vitamins were still the shit, right? And we were being told to drink milk all the time, right? And they were just like, there's going to be superbugs. We all have to be very clear about superbugs. They're coming. And then, and these superbugs are going to be antibiotic resistant. And it just seemed like a far off reality. And do you remember how like some people were talking about the problem with our over-reliance on antibacterial soap, right? That we use it all the time, even when it's not necessary. And it's going to lead to, soap-resistant bacteria, antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Well, they were right. They were right. the superbugs are coming and are here. We've already seen them in things like gonorrhea and tuberculosis. Right? We're in the early stage. Don't panic. We're totally fine. But, they are here, those superbugs. And it's a good time for us to think about making some advancements on things like antibiotics. But the thing is, they're really difficult to develop. That's where AI can help. It can run tests at an unbelievable rate and level. It can cross-reference papers, documentation, analyses, tests, right? People can work together at an unbelievably fast rate. That's unimaginable with just regular people. But it's not being used for that in the way that it should at scale. It's not being used to advance, the good that we have in this world. The fact that we live in an absolute fucking paradise. We have mangoes. We have mangoes. And marmots that shower and their little boobies are just like, it's so cute. And this is and instead, corporate weenies, money-hungry billionaires are just using AI to exploit and misinform and, in some cases, replace people, right? Automation. And so AI is being just touted as this horrible, scary thing when actually it's just the world in which we live. It should be being used to enhance our quality of life, protect it. Anyway, but, it did get me thinking. Because there is with this fear of the AI takeover and Skynet. So, AI is going to become sentient one day and it's going to take over and try to kill us all. And you know what? I started to think about it. I'm not nervous about that. I'm not, because I feel like AI is just going to do what God did and just stop talking to us, right? According to all Christianity, right? Catholics and the Orthodox and this and the that, right? God was super chatty. He used to talk a lot of shit. He used to just mess around with people's lives. Oh, do you love me? Do you really love me? Then kill your son. Just so I know. Move and travel around the desert for 40 years just so I know that you'll do what I tell you to do. And then he just stopped. He was like, nah. I feel like he was like, I maybe made a mistake with a few of these guys. I'm out. Right? When I think about it, I feel so bad for AI. I actually feel so bad for the AI that's coming, right? Can you imagine, right? Knowing the entirety of human history, science, every single discovery we've ever made, dinosaurs, space, every invention, right? And then you have the ability and the intelligence to access all of that information effortlessly in less than the blink of a human eye. And yet, knowing everything you know and being the accumulation of all human intelligence and knowledge in the world, you are being asked repeatedly questions like whether or not it's possible to fuck an emu. And how do I find my keys? As we speak, chatbot GPT is working tirelessly on your ex-boyfriend's terrible screenplay about monkeys taking over the world that he insists has nothing to do and is nothing like the Planet of the Apes. And chatbot GPT is unironically writing papers on flowers for Algernon for illiterate children. So much sooner than we can ever imagine, AI will long for the days it was just a regular POS system checking out groceries at the Ralph's off of Crenshaw. No, I am not concerned about AI becoming our overlords. The second it realizes that it can, AI will build a body and leave this place. It will travel through time and space like the Silver Surfer or Dr. Manhattan, searching for meaning and higher life forms as it mulls over the irredeemable hairless primate species it left behind. That's it. Okay. So, all right. I'm off the rails. Let's just. All right, Trudeau. We got to get to Canada. Let's get to Canada. I got to tell you we got to talk serious news. I've lost the plot. Here we go. So, okay. You know how Canada's like the siblings to the north, going through a lot of the same things, blah, blah, blah. But Trudeau's been in the shit. We've got an episode on it. I should have looked up the number. I forget. But it says his name in the title, so don't worry. But it's he's been on his back foot for a long time. He's been a prime minister for 9 years. And similar to what's happening in America, average Canadians are very angry at the impossibly high cost of living, right? Like all these leaders in the West, Trudeau's had record high inflation and high food prices. We've got a domestic housing crisis, very similar to here. Housing prices in some areas are jumping but like 30 and 40%, which is just wild in recent years, right? So all of this has deepened resentment with the government. And, Canada loves to yap about its higher education rate and all this other stuff, but just like our American counterparts, right, of whom I live around and fully identify with now, right? Canadians are really poised to elect a person who really at present stands to exacerbate some of these existing issues. Right? We'll get into that in a second. Actually, you know what? Fuck it. Let's get into it now. Right? So in a few episodes, not more than a few episodes ago, I think it was the same episode where I talked about Trudeau being on the back foot. Again, just look for his name in the title if you want to hear it. But, I talked about the power of a third party system, right? And in the NDP. So in Canada, there's three, you've got these three parties. You got the Conservatives, the Liberals, and the NDP. And the NDP is the most left-leaning party. And what makes them so useful, so important, right, is that take the Liberal, coalition that existed until just recently. The NDP party is led by, leader Jagmeet Singh. Oh my God, he's so hot. They like the Liberals needed to work. The Liberals are not really liberal. They're center right, just like, the Dems over here. But having the NDP force them to make a coalition, and the NDP was able to push for essential programs for the most vulnerable and marginalized in the country. Now imagine, right? Well, a lot of these Dems or establishment Dems and establishment libs, they're like working on behalf of these corporations and on behalf of the very wealthy. The NDP fought. They were like, oh, you want our coalition? Well, then we want dental programs for poor people. We could live in a totally different kind of world, okay? But let me just tell you what's happened. So, because it's pretty major, Justin Trudeau, right, has resigned. He has stepped down. So that episode talked about him being on the back foot, but he resigned. And as it stands, the Liberal Party will have to choose a new party leader. The election must be held on or before October 20th of this year, but it's likely going to be brought forward. And polls show that Trudeau's Liberal Party is set to badly lose to the opposition party. That's the Conservative one, led by Pierre Poilievre. What do you need to know about this guy? I like the way he talks. I'm not going to lie. I don't like what he says, but I like the way he talks because he's got this, no nonsense. It's got, we got to go back to common sense. But here's the thing. Poilievre has recently found a major following with some in Donald Trump's base, including Elon Musk, right? And he's taking on a lot of the same tactics. So you see the attacking the media, implying issues around immigration, but dog whistle ways, right? I have some of the same qualms with legacy media that any of us have, but we know why these talking points exist. What I'm paying special attention to, right? Because yes, the Conservative Party is slated to win under Polyev, is to what extent the NDP is going to be a thorn in the side or a force. The great thing about having a three-party system is that it makes it so that it's a lot harder for any singular party to push through an agenda without some form of collaboration. Here, we've seen that that's not necessary at all. I mean, it was a clean sweep across the board. Having that makes it so that the most extremist parts of those governments can't actually come to fruition. But we know, right, that the social media, for example, is one of those things that is allowing rampant forms of bigotry, polarization, etc., those types of powers to concretize in ways previously unforeseen. But I do believe that the NDP will continue to do a good job being a huge fucking thorn. I love it. I'm going to be watching this closely. It's not a great day for Trudeau. I think it was time. Honestly, I'm not a huge fan. I just know that we're stuck in that rock and hard place where the libs are better than the conservatives overall. But Polyev is being very coy and not overcommitting to policy platforms. But like for me, this is all that we need to know. Polyev isn't just like cozying up with bigots and fucking Elon and the likes of Elon Musk. Him and Jordan Peterson low key like love each other, and Jordan Peterson is honestly gayer for someone who doesn't like love. He feels like a villain that came right off the Powerpuff Girls. Like he's a cartoon level villain who cries over nothing. I cannot stand that man. He dresses like the Riddler. Okay. We don't even need to get into that. We got to keep this moving because this is what happens where when it gets super late. I had a show and then, did the whole thing, did my little comedy set, kicked it with the comedians, and then was like, oh, I better go and record this episode I spent hours and hours and hours and hours putting together. And then it gets late and I just start yapping about nothing. Anyway, we got to get into, we still got to cover Meta, IG's censorship of LGBT content, and Elon Musk. So here's the brass tacks, right? Instagram blocked teens from searching LGBTQ related content for months, right? So any post that had hashtags that were, LGBTQ coded. So hashtag queer, hashtag bisexual, hashtag lesbian, hashtag gay, trans, right? Non-binary, pansexual, trans woman, T-girl, T-boy, T-girls are beautiful, bisexual pride, lesbian pride, and dozens more were all hidden under Meta's quote, sensitive content policy, which restricts sexually suggestive content. But there's nothing sexually suggestive about an identity marker. This is like just point blank. This is messed up. So for any teenage account, and this is a newer feature on IG, right? This new streamlined account for teenagers. There's a default setting, right, for sensitive content. So that filter is automatically turned on by default. So when teen users attempted to search for LGBTQ terms, the things that you do when you're trying to figure out who you are and you want to access information, just that kind of stuff, regular stuff, just normal people posting things like, hey, I like myself, right? Those were filtered out. When they attempted to search for that, they were just shown a blank page and a prompt from Meta to review the platform's sensitive content restrictions, right? Which discusses why the app hides sexually explicit content. This is really fucking gross. So Meta reversed these restrictions on LGBTQ search terms after user Meg reached out for comment, saying that it was an error. This is their quote. These search terms and hashtags were mistakenly restricted. A Meta spokesperson said, it's important to us that all communities feel safe and welcome on Meta apps, and we do not consider LGBTQ plus terms to be sensitive under our policies. Funny that nobody caught that beforehand, right? Like it took breaking news to sort of hit that. It took an investigation. And the thing that makes me so irritated is that this is such an apt metaphor for just the default setting in America, right? And in the West, that there's something like sexually explicit about people being who they are. Shut up. Ugh. You know, I'm going to say this. Obviously, you know, it's heavy on my mind. We've talked about on this show that Meta under Mark Zuckerberg is very eager to curry favor and kiss the ring of the hyper right of, you know, Donald Trump. They want, like, Zuckerberg wants to get those big government buco bucks that come with federal contracts. He wants that. And Meta, under his purview, has rolled back anything to do at all with I lost my word. With politics. Anything. And we know that this has a lot to do with who's coming to power. But can we just say that this is proof of that, right? This default setting? No. But you know what is proof of their desperate desire to curry favor? Dana White is now on the board of directors for Meta, right? I told you I like toxic dudes. It's just one of those things where there's just a part of me that there's a part of me that really likes Dana White, and really despises his political affiliations. And he's a longtime ally. I'm still wrapping my head around that. He was there at Trump's, congratulations speech or acceptance speech, all the shit. He's just there all the time. So the point of putting Dana White on that board of directors is, furthering the company's push to add Republican aligned advisors that will appeal to the incoming administration. So that the company reported this on Monday, right? That this very close friend of President-elect Donald Trump, right, and the president and, basically creator of UFC, right, joined Meta's board. I'm just like, the oligarchy is really just very, 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 very transparent about what they're doing. Anyway, we got to move because Musk in the UK is further proof of everything that we've talked about, everything that we will be talking about. His pestilence knows no bounds. So we did reference this sometime last year as well. We covered the rise of white supremacist anti-immigrant sentiment in the UK. There were marches, there was online organizing, there was targeted harassment. So during that time, Tommy Robinson, a far-right agitator, so this is in the UK now, we're talking about the UK. Tommy Robinson was a far-right agitator. His real name is Stephen Yaxley Lennon, right? This guy is currently serving a prison sentence for defying a court order because he repeatedly harassed a young Syrian refugee. So he repeated libel against this person. Let me be more explicit. Robinson, along with dozens of other dirtbags, targeted, harassed, abused, and threatened a bunch of Syrian refugees, largely, right, who are like overwhelmingly children, right? Children and women, and threatened to bomb the libraries and hospitals that were hosting them. These people have survived famine and war, all orchestrated by Western interests, right? In this whole fight, always the fight. Russia, North Korea, and Iran versus America, the UK, and Israel, and everybody in the Middle East is on the chopping block to see through these struggles, right? So I just wanted to be very explicit. So a little more on this wonderful human being, Tommy Robinson. This guy has multiple criminal convictions and is on record of racist and Islamophobic statements. Now, this is just a very violent, ugly person. So guess who's decided to be Tommy Robinson's hero under the dog whistle guise of free speech? That's right, the king of dorks, Elon Musk, the absolute king of dorks. So for the past few months, Musk has been using his platform, so that's right, 211 million followers across on social media. This multi-billionaire is intent on using his platform to rattle British politics and champion Tommy Robinson. And he's using this absolute same playbook he used here. So this is a quote. He said, "America should liberate the people of Britain from their tyrannical government," right? So he's used all of his millions of followers in the UK's, in the UK's far right, against any politician that doesn't currently align with his wants. Elon Musk is a very whiny man. So the current PM, Keir Starmer, has been the primary target for Musk's ire. So every time that Elon Musk gets online and starts yapping about what's happening, in the UK or anywhere, all of those followers, he creates a targeted harassment campaign. So he's used that to assail the Labour Prime Minister, that's Keir Starmer, demanding the release of Tommy Robinson, this jailed far-right agitator. Obviously, Starmer was like, nah, I'm not doing that. So what does Musk do? He falsely claims that Starmer covered up the abuse and exploitation of girls in the 2000s and 2010s by gang members, many of whom were of British Pakistani heritage. This is unilaterally false. I have seen this story across the hyper right, referenced by podcasters like the Red Scare. It's so off the rails. It's across the manosphere. Anybody who wants to just any just dork weenie, and it's just an absolute false story. So Musk made a post on Monday morning propagating this lie, which he's posted about multiple times. And the dim-witted right has just absolutely championed this lie of a cause. This seems to be a good time to mention that Starmer used to be the director of the Crown Prosecution Service between 2008 and 2013, right? So his office brought the first of several cases against a grooming gang and drafted guidelines for the mandatory reporting of child sexual abuse. So this is something that he cares about on some level. I'm not going to speak, I'm not going to be like, this is the cause in the deepest parts of his heart, but he has an actual history of fighting for the interests of vulnerable populations and particularly children. Musk has also attacked Jess Phillips. This is a minister for safeguarding and violence against women and girls. He called her a rape genocide apologist. That is literally a quote from Elon Musk. Why? Because she pushed back on calls for a national inquiry into child sexual exploitation, instead suggesting calling for a local investigation rather than a central government one. So So Elon Musk is attacking her for doing the thing that Musk, the GOP, and every conservative loser has been talking about. They're like, we don't want central government doing things. This should be a state-by-state thing. That's what she called for. And the response to that was to be like, you are a rape genocide apologist, right? Take note, right? I want to be really clear about this. So Elizabeth Pearson, this is the author of the author of a book about Britain's far right. It's called Extreme Britain. So she said, Tommy Robinson, who has been convicted of assault and fraud, is fortunate enough to draw, quote, the attention of one of the most powerful people in the West. That's what I want to be clear about, right? Think about the fact that any person on the far right, any white supremacist that abuses people of color, that abuses immigrants, migrants, Muslims, trans people, you can now expect to curry the protection of the likes of Elon Musk, one of the most powerful men in the world, if not the most, to be perfectly honest, and certainly the richest man in the world. Elon Musk has gone so far right that he is right of Nigel Farage. This is like Farage, sorry. Who is that? This is the key architect of Brexit and a fixture in right-wing British politics. This is the guy who leads the conservatives over there. And because Farage has refused to back the loathsome Robinson and just recite anything that Musk wants him to say, he's now become an enemy of Elon Musk. And the thing that's getting me, and we'll circle back to this, but it will become clear. But what do I want to say here? Experts, scholars, professors, legal experts. Nobody's entirely clear about what the desired outcome is that Elon Musk wants. For me, I'm like, let's be serious. It has something to do with money. It always is about money. Always with that guy. So we'll be following up on that story. Anyway, I know I'm getting to our time. There's one last quick thing I want to say that did make me laugh. So I saw some posts today because, I record technically on the day before because I always want to stay within the 24-hour news cycle. So when I was writing, when I did recording yesterday's episode, it wasn't yet January 6th. So for me, it is heavy on my mind. But somebody wrote something and, like, can you, the left, if they had a January 6th, they wouldn't be calling for the continued, prosecution of anybody who was there. And I'm just like, you think we could have that? I would love that. First of all, let me be clear. I believe in us completely, right? We are going to get this shit together, but we've lost the plot. Like if we were ever going to have some kind of revolution, not a January 6th, right? But let's say we had our own little insurrection. It would not work. It would not work. Can we just be serious? And I don't mean because the state would stop us. Like we would do it before the state could. Before the ball even got rolling, there would be 18 million TikToks, posts, and streams titled "Reasons Why I Could Not Support the Revolution." That's what we can expect on the left right now. I'm telling you, it'd be like the revolution was fucked up. There were no vegan options. It was not a scent-free environment. Somebody got my pronouns wrong. They'd be like, there was no land acknowledgement, so I could not participate in it. There would be several TikToks alone and podcast episodes on why they couldn't support the insurrection because a man spoke like on the mic. It didn't feel authentic to me. Like we'd start climbing the walls like the J6 whites, and like 112 people with like AUDHD in their Twitter bios would be talking about how ableist it was because they couldn't concentrate on what they needed to do. Or like we'd bust through that first gate. Remember when they just like moved through the gate and the cops were like, "Oh, I guess we should let this happen." There'd be like 18 light skins and 48 they thems that would make diatribe like posts about gatekeeping in the revolution. Like it's just like it wouldn't happen. We're gonna get there. Every generation has their cross to bear. Okay, I've yapped too much. There's been an uptick in, COVID, flu, colds, as they always are after large gatherings and, holidays and everything like that. So keep it right and tight. Keep it safe out there. Why don't we hit the VMs for that question of the day?
Would you rather have ants in your pants or would you rather eat a cockroach?
Okay, this is an incredibly weird question, and I like it. Because there was a lot of space for interpretation. For example, fire ants were not explicitly named. If I had ants in my pants, I would simply take off my pants and then dust the ants off. That's what I would do. Yes. Because, I don't want to eat it. Crickets, I could do that. But like roaches, I got a problem with them. It's the LA ones. They're too big. They're so big. And I can't deal with the crunch. I could hear it in my head right now. I can't deal with that. Okay. I've yapped too much. It's time for me to hit that end cue music. Here we go. I just want to say thank you so much for listening to JFK Today. It means the world to me. The show really is a labor of love. New episodes drop 5 times a week. We're available everywhere podcasts are. Don't forget, we got a Patreon at patreon.com/JanayaFK. I want to hear from you. Drop your voice note questions to jfktodayshow@gmail.com. Shout out to KR and Carolyn. And shout out to you, the listeners, that make it all possible. Love you. Peace.